It is the ability of a person to communicate in two languages and co-switch between the two, regardless of which language they are speaking.
A globalized world requires effective communication. The knowledge of foreign languages is fundamental nowadays in order to work, foster business and international exchanges, study, access a wider variety of content on the internet, travel, interact with people, and understand and get to know cultures and individuals, among other things. The average number of bilingual speakers in any given European country is 66%. Countries like Luxembourg, Lithuania, Latvia, Denmark, Slovenia, and Sweden stand out, as they are over 90% bilingual. However, Spain is the European country with the third least amount of bilingual adults, with only 51% having some understanding of a second language, and of those people, only 19% having advanced control.
Because of this, there are more and more bilingual schools or schools with bilingual sections that are revitalizing education, updating it, so that the school fitting with the multilingual society we find ourselves in today. Now, experts in the field of education from 4 different countries will tell us what makes a good teacher and a good bilingual teacher, what methodologies they use to teach their students, and what benefits being bilingual provides.
To be honest, I can't say what makes a great teacher. I think that's a personal thing for each individual learner. But what I can say is what makes a good teacher. A good teacher, I think, is someone who cares about learning and who cares who tries to create learning opportunities in class, and someone who doesn't think that they have all the answers. What does it mean to be a great bilingual teacher? Again, someone who is able to create opportunities where students can feel comfortable to use the language, to get their hands dirty with the language, shall we say. What are the benefits of bilingualism? Well, I mean, it's obvious that language, the second language, shall we say, is learned inductively, that it's learned in context. And what methodologies are used? I think a mix, a balance of different methodologies. Cooperative learning and lots and lots and lots of speaking. Thanks.
Desde mi punto de vista, la cualidad principal que debe tener un profesor es la empatía, no olvidar nunca a los alumnos que tiene enfrente, dependiendo del tipo de alumno que tenga, el tipo de clase que tenga, si es homogéneo, heterogéneo, en nivel, en edad, en bagaje cultural. Debemos siempre adaptarnos a lo que tenemos en el aula, olvidarnos un poquito de nuestras propias experiencias y utilizar las suyas para enseñarles y para guiarles a la hora de aprender un segundo idioma. Quizás la mayor ventaja que pueda tener un profesor bilingüe, independientemente del país en el que trabaje, si es el país en el que de su primera lengua o no, es el hecho de haber pasado por la misma fase y por la misma etapa de aprendizaje de otra lengua que el alumno que tiene enfrente. Estas experiencias siempre se pueden utilizar otra vez junto con la empatía para ayudarles a los alumnos a entender qué es lo que está pasando en su cabeza cuando están aprendiendo una segunda lengua. El hecho de aprender otra lengua en sí y ser pues, lo que llaman bilingüe o simplemente el conocer, el tener la habilidad comunicativa en una lengua distinta de la que conoces desde que naces son enormes desde el punto de vista neurológico como personal y sobre todo profesional, teniendo en cuenta tal y como están las cosas hoy día con el aprendizaje de tener otra lengua aparte de la tuya. El tipo de metodología que en el caso concreto suelo utilizar es meramente comunicativa. La idea es crear un pequeño grupo de trabajo en el aula en el que todos se sientan parte de algo grande y todos participen del mismo proceso, para tomarlo como un camino en el que tienen que ir todos juntos. Y el profesor no es más que una parte de ese camino.
الصراحة أول كلمة تخطر على بالي لبروفيسور بيعلم لغات هي كلمة مبدع، لأنه هو فعلا لازم يكون بروفيسور مبدع حتى يقدر يوصل التجربة والمهارات اللي اكتسبها من خلال رحلة تعلمه للطلاب اللي بده يعلمهم، ويقدر يتواصل معهم بطريقة فعالة مشان يوصل للشيء اللي هو بده اياه. وطبعا لازم يبتعد تماما كليا عن الطريقه التقليديه بالتعليم اللي هي الطريقه الممله واللي ما بتخلي الطالب يقدر يكتسب مهارات مثل ما اكتسب الاستاذ، ومشان هيك لازم تنعكس التجربه تاعته. بالاضافه لانه لازم يكون اعطاء اللغه هو باللغه نفسها اللي هي عم تدرس. مثلا انا بدي اعطي الطلاب فوت، ما بضطر اشرح لهم باللغه اللي هن بيحكوا فيها، لا بفضل طبعا احكيهم باللغه اللي عم علمهم هي، مشان هيك يكونوا قادرين انه يمتصوا اللغه بشكل افضل ويصيروا مثل متعودين عليهم، لانه تتعود على اللغه. وبحاول طبعا وصل او اشرح الفكره او اشرح اي كلمه ما بيعرفوها باللغه نفسها.
Ser professor de primária, em primeiro lugar, é uma escolha, é uma opção de vida, é um compromisso dos outros e para com os outros, com as crianças, com os pais, com a família e com a sociedade. Um professor da primária que trabalhe em termos de bilinguismo deve ser, acima de tudo, consciente da multiculturalidade que existe no mundo, que existe na sociedade dos dias de hoje, para desta forma poder proporcionar sempre que possível o contacto com uma outra língua às crianças. Em qualquer situação, desde uma saudação inicial, os buenos dias, começar bom dia, hasta final adeus, hasta luego, por aí. Em termos de benefícios, parece-me muito importante e é sabido que, em termos de resultados escolares, tem vindo a ser notório que estes alunos que têm uma educação bilingue conseguem uns resultados escolares significativos e também em termos de criação, construção de atitudes que são favoráveis à criação de uma sociedade mais tolerante. A consciência de que existe mais do que uma língua permite-nos ter uma tolerância diferente em relação àquilo que não é igual a nós. Portanto, nesse sentido é importante e também é importante porque aprendem a usar mais do que um sistema de escrita e da expressão também, saber quando escolho uma coisa e escolho outra.
What I think makes a good teacher, everyone has their own approach, but I think some important values would be patience and kindness, and especially passion. Because if you have a teacher that is passionate about what they're teaching, I think it makes the entire classroom come alive. And that's what's important, because learning, if it's just memorization, can be so boring. But I think a good teacher makes children like teaching, and they make it fun, and they make it something that the kids can relate to. And if you're passionate about the subject that you're teaching, I think it affects the rest of the classroom, and it brings everyone together. Things that I think someone does to be a good bilingual teacher, along the same ideas, I think when I'm in the classroom, I like to use a lot of the target language. I think that's really important because the students need to hear the language, but I think that also they need to be producing the language. And so I like to start the class with the basis of vocabulary so that they have the tools, or maybe grammar, so they have the tools And then I like to use games and songs and stories and real materials that then the students, maybe they don't even realize that they're practicing the grammar, but they have to use the grammar in order to complete the activity. So they're using it for a real life purpose and to communicate and really to make them think in that language. Something that I use a lot in class would be TPR, total physical response. A lot of my students don't understand what I'm saying, or I have some that do and a lot that don't. And so to bring the other students along with me, using total physical response, so using my actions to explain what I'm saying and not just the language, so that they can see what I'm doing and then they can kind of understand what everything means. I, like I said, also only use the target language, but sometimes I'll use the other students that have a higher level of English, that after I've given instructions, they will translate for the other students so I can make sure that everyone is on the same level. And since I also speak Spanish, I have the advantage of being able to understand what the student is saying to the other kids, so I can make sure that my message has come across. Like I said, I also like to use a more communicative strategy where they're producing the language and they're using real materials, and try to stay away from a focus on grammar. Last, benefits of being bilingual. There's a lot of benefits. It's not only good for being able to travel and being able to put it on your resume for a job, and just the people you can meet and interact with that you wouldn't be able to otherwise. It's also good for your brain, and studies have shown that when people are bilingual, even though they're speaking one language, both languages are activated in their brain. And so this means that they are constantly having to work out that interference of the other language, which means they're really good at problem solving. And it strengthens your brain and the connection, so even some people have seen a later onset of Alzheimer's or dementia. So it makes your brain healthier.
As we have noticed, in the different countries where bilingual education is carried out, there is an interrelation in the methodologies used. In other words, it is essential to be empathetic and creative in the teaching of a second language. Teachers should be involved in the teaching-learning process. They should be committed to education. We, as future teachers, could not agree more with their opinions. We strongly feel that bilingualism is the rule, not the exception. Teachers should be their guides, providing them with all the materials and resources for the acquisition of the language, always respecting the individual rhythm of each child. Furthermore, as benefit of bilingualism, we emphasize the development of metalinguistic awareness. Therefore, it facilitates the learning of language. Further development of knowledge by the biggest global access to information. The more knowledge they acquire, more reasoning, flexibility, creativity, tolerance, and acquisition of an open mentality for the world. In addition, bilingualism promotes global literacy and language development. We must not forget that in bilingual education, students achieve in time the state of language. As Reed Winsett said, the limits of my language are the limits of my world.